Guys, thank you so much for coming today. As you guys see, that our office is finally starting to come together. We're doing a lot of finishing touches now. And this week we're going to have one of our biggest moments. We're going to have our first event with auction.com, hopefully here in the office. But from the looks of it, last week there were already 150 people who RSVP'd. So it may not be here. It may be, yeah, oh, Tom.
Hi. Excuse me.
As of last week, there were 150 people who RSVP'd already, investors from this area, Union County, Essex County, Passaic. So if it's too big for the office, we will do it next door. But I'm still going to want to introduce everyone who goes to that event to our office, so we'll walk them around and show them. So if anyone has like stuff on the desk by the end of the week, I want it to be put away, taken home. I'll let everyone know who's not here too. I'll send out an email. So it's going to be a very big week for us, so I expect everyone to participate. If you guys want to get some more investors, if you guys want to learn more about the auction.com process or the foreclosure process, it's going to be June 8th from 6 to 8. So I really look forward to that. But I also look forward to hearing Paul today. Paul has got an amazing story. Like I said before, some of us here, like we never know what the person next to us or the people we talk to every day, what their life story is, or what their struggles were, or what their accomplishments are. So it's good for us to have these meetings, and we could know who our brethren and our sisters are in this office. So Paul, without any further ado, is going to tell us today a little bit about himself and his story. So Paul, it's all yours now.
Thanks, Louis.
No problem, brother.
All right, so my name's Paul Nilsen. Let's see, I'll try not to put you guys to sleep, but I'm 53 years old. I grew up in Bricktown. I was actually adopted when I was 1 year old, and I have an adopted brother and sister. Unfortunately, the man that adopted me, I was adopted by a husband and wife. The man that adopted me was extremely abusive. He pretty much physically, emotionally, and verbally abused me and my siblings. It was a very challenging childhood, needless to say. But I did learn at kind of a young age to figure out how to fly under his radar. But there's been some pretty incredibly difficult times. My sister was sexually abused, and whether I was getting abused or not, seeing my siblings get it was almost as bad, if not worse. I was adopted as a baby, and they were adopted actually older. My brother was, I think, 8 when he was adopted, and my sister was about 11. And so they had already been through some foster homes and probably had it much more difficult than I did up to that point in their life. I was adopted first, but they were older than me. So I just found out some things recently because I lost touch with both of them for a long time, because they pretty much had to leave. It was really bad for them. And I was younger, so by the time they were 17, they were gone, and they didn't graduate high school. And so I carry some guilt with that because I didn't get it as bad as them. But I finally found my sister on Facebook, and she's super excited, and we're building our relationship again after 30 years of not seeing her. That's a long time. But the last time I saw my brother was '94, and I haven't been able to find him. But I was doing some research into his. He changed his name back to his birth name, and I was doing some research into that name, and I came across a gentleman that turns out to be his actual half-brother. And he's a successful Walgreens executive, but he actually wrote a story about his life. So I was reading an excerpt from his book, and crazy enough, he's talking about my brother, and he's got another 4 or 5 siblings from the same woman in Massachusetts. And I come to find out that my brother was, I think, 7. He had a 5-year-old sister, a 3-year-old brother who was this guy that wrote the book, and a one-year-old baby. There were 4 of them in the house, and the mother would be gone, and they would literally the 7-year-old, my brother, Mike, and 5-year-old girl, Joni, I think her name was, and Steve, the 3-year-old, would actually have to go forage for food in garbage cans. So that, I mean, that literally crushed me when I read that. It's very difficult to read that about, and not know. We grew up together from, maybe from 8 or 9 to 17. So we had 9 years, I guess, as a family, pretty dysfunctional, but it was still a family. And, finding that out just recently has been difficult for me. Sorry, I'm getting a little emotional here. But anyway, for myself, like I said, I learned how to kind of fly under the radar, just keep myself on the straight and narrow. I guess one of the biggest turning points for me in a positive way was when I was 12 years old. I got a paper route, and I realized that once I got some money in my hand, I had some freedom. I did everything I could to kind of be out of the house at all times, because I really didn't feel safe there. And so, being able to buy a bicycle or something and just ride. I would ride to Point Pleasant from Bricktown and just hang out in the arcades or whatever with my friends and just be gone from morning till night. In the summer times, of course, I went to school. So that was a good experience for me to start earning money. Very early in my life, I got a work ethic where I got a taste of some money, and then I would do anything I could to hustle money. We'll cut lawns, rake leaves, whatever, shovel snow. And I'm sure everybody in here is too young to remember the gas crisis of the 70s, except for Tom. You remember? Well, where I lived, there was a gas station, and cars would line up. So I got the idea one day, I'll see if people want a cup of coffee. So I would run up and down the line. I'd take 2 orders for $0.25 apiece. I'd go bring them back a cup of coffee, get those 50 cents, and then hit the next 2 cars. And I just do that all day long. So I even though with the challenges and the struggles, I look for productive ways to, use my time, and I think that's where I got my little entrepreneurial spirit. Because I always wanted to be self-employed. So anyway, at 16, I got a job with Pathmark, no longer existing. But in a few years, I did so well there. I was promoted I was probably the youngest department manager they ever had. And but I was a little bit rebellious because everything had to be just so planned out the way, upper management wanted it. And I kind of knew my market. I was probably the only one that did research into demographics of the store I was in, find out what merchandise would sell. So I did really good, moving more product than anybody, doing great with the gross profit and keeping profit margins good. But because of the fact I didn't follow their plan, they sometimes were a little unhappy with me. So because I need to kind of chart my own course, I started working, doing some cleaning at night. Because again, at that point I was a workaholic. I mean, 60 hours a week wasn't enough for me, so I had to do 3 or 4 hours every single night. But at 22 I got married, and which is really young in hindsight. And I had a son at 25, and obviously, I mean, that was huge. That changed my life. And that's when I took my part-time cleaning at night. In 1 year, I was able to replace my full-time income, and I just left the job at Pathmark. It was kind of risky. He was only 3 months old, so I was leaving a secure job. And but I just always knew I could succeed. I had enough confidence in myself where I could be successful. So for the next, 4 years later, I had another son. And the next 10 years, I basically worked on my business and just being there for my kids. I was fortunate enough to coach soccer. I got a black belt in karate with my oldest son. So I mean, it's just awesome. And I couldn't have done that if I was working for somebody else. So probably another thing about me is I really can't be in the same place all day long. It drives me crazy. So having the opportunity to do just something different every day, every hour, and then stop in the middle of the day to do something with my kids was super important to me. But during that same period, and my marriage pretty much just fell apart. And so we ended up getting divorced. That leads me to finding the perfect woman finally. My wife Michelle is amazing. She supports me in everything. There are times when I do have some self-esteem issues, needless to say, with being kind of crushed, emotionally by my father for many, many years. But she always brings me back, tells me you're worth it. And the first day I was here training with Lewis, I'm going off a little bit on the timeline here, but he's going through everything super fast, and mojo sells and all this stuff, and I'm like, I text my wife, I don't think I can do this, Of course, she texts me back a supportive text. You definitely can do it. You can do it. But just a little bit more about my wife. I mean, she works really hard. She has a great job for Johnson & Johnson. She's an amazing stepmother, an amazing mother, an amazing wife, and she's just the perfect partner for me, because when I need some support, she's absolutely there 100% of the time for me. And she's really hot too, so that helps.
I love it.
Now they get recorded.
So she has 3 children of her own, and I had 2, because my first wife wasn't very maternal, so I had custody of my children. So I'm not going to say there weren't any challenges. Blending a family of 5 kids from 2 different backgrounds, there were days when it was crazy. But we managed to get through it and really be successful at it. I have a 27-year-old, lives in Portland. He graduated Rowan University with a philosophy degree, so he makes my head spin with some of the stuff he talks about. He got a job with an internet company out in Portland. He's doing great. He's traveling. He just got back from Amsterdam, so he's doing great. My son Nicholas is in Alaska. In October, he decided to pack up everything and go to Alaska, Fairbanks, and he's waiting tables at a really good restaurant and finding himself. But he's a tremendous writer. He's got a super talent. I think he's been writing since he was about 12. He's written many short stories, many even 200-300 page novels. So hasn't had anything published yet, but I think he's going to do it. I have a daughter, Angela, who's a nurse at Monmouth Medical. Just graduated last year. Went on an interview, got the job right away. A couple months later, she's a nurse and doing great, and having actually had some accolades as like a new nursing, as a new nurse. My son Taylor is at NJIT. He is going for mechanical engineering. He started off as a mechanic, but he decided after busting his butt in the shop, and a very physical job, he decided let me use my brain a little, because he's pretty good at figuring things out, how they work. And then that brings me to the baby, Samantha. She'd probably be mad for me saying that, but she's 19. She's at Susquehanna University, first year 4.0. Just 5 brilliant kids that I couldn't ask for, a better life right now. I'm so blessed. And I guess that brings me to here. Business has been very successful, except for, in 2008, I pretty much lost 80% of the business. But I was able to bring it up to a nice solid 7-figure business up to this point now. But I'm just looking for something different, something where it's a pretty negative business. Most people don't tell you you're doing a good job. They tell you that the time you missed something in their office or their building. So I'm looking to do something positive. I really feel like at this stage in my life, it's important to help people and to get. And I think in real estate you can do that. I think you really can. And one more thing. Oh, Harry's in the back. But I wanted to say thank you to Lewis because I guess based on my personal history and how I treat people, I think it's really important to feel valued. And I think he does that. And I don't know if he does it intentionally or even knows it. It comes natural. I don't think I've ever met anybody that makes you feel like you're part of the team right away. You're valuable. You can do it. You're smart. I mean, he makes you feel amazing. So thanks, Lewis.
Oh, me? I think I Harry.
No, that was you. So I guess before I sign off, I do have a question. Has anybody seen Harry without the hat on?
Yeah.
And I want to know if that hat brings you superpowers. I think it's like Samson's hair. That's what I think.
You look like with no hat.
So anyway, thank you. I appreciate you listening to me. And I appreciate all you guys. I really do.